All day I rush around, but I'm still on the ground, on the ground. I'll soon be fluttering if I can find my wings, find my wings. Impatiently I want to fly today, but I hear a gentle voice inside me say that slow and steady steps will be my pace. Slow and steady steps will win this race. It will take some time, but the victory will be mine. Slow and steady, I'm gonna learn to fly. I'm starting to believe I only race with me, only me. I can't give to someone else this journey for myself. It's for myself. Since my best is all I have, it is enough. I can see a ray of hope. I've got to trust.
Come on in. Where is everybody?
Steps will be my pace.
Usually about 2 minutes, we got 100 people in here.
And steady steps will win this race. It will take some time, but the victory will be mine. Slow and steady, I'm gonna learn to fly, and I will soar. I will reach the sky, a little at a time. I'm reaching, I keep believing that slow and steady steps will be my pace. Slow and steady steps will win this race. It will take some time, but the victory will be mine. Slow and steady, I'm gonna learn to fly. Slow and steady, I'm gonna learn to fly.
Okay, everybody. Well, we still don't have a white cat, but God's in control. And Robert's been out hunting him, and the dog's been out hunting for Penrod. Everybody's been out hunting him. And we still have no cat, but all we can do is give it to God. That's all we can do right now. That's all we can do with just about anything. The things that we can do are pray, pray, pray. We can pray. Just like we can pray for the people in Afghanistan. We can pray for our neighbors who are suffering in Louisiana. We can pray. We might not be able to go to them or get to him. But the Louisiana Navy, they're doing their best to rescue people. This hurricane just popped up out of nowhere. Usually we're talking about a hurricane for 2 weeks ahead of time. And this one just blew up in the Gulf. Just blew up. And it was moving pretty fast. And that it hit on Sunday. Here it is Wednesday. So Penrod did not come home, Willow. Penrod did not come home yet. But I keep looking for him. I've had the binoculars out looking on the forest floor for. He's just a white cat. In fact, I got a picture of him from last night. He and the gray kitty got in Robert's lap. And it's the first time. The gray kitty has not been here is a picture of Penrod. He is a flame point Siamese. He's all white, and his ears are golden colored, orange colored. His muzzle has got some orange in it. He's got orange on his tail, and he's a very vocal cat. Very vocal cat. Well, it wasn't just Penrod in Robert's lap last night. It was also Samantha. And this is the only way you'll ever see Samantha in a picture. Samantha was laying on the foot of Robert's chair on his legs with her little feet propped over his legs. And it was just the cutest picture of all. Just a two kitty lap. But, all we can do is pray. That's all we can do. Penrod's not a child, but he's our fur baby. And he's been our fur baby for 11 years, maybe 12 years. 12 years. And he's been a good kitty. He thinks he's a dog. And he was raised by a dog, Shadow. Shadow raised Penrod. And then Penrod raised Tulip. So it's quite a wonderful relationship with our critters. We love them. We love them. But we do live on 10 acres of forest. And in that forest, we have a trail cam, a couple of them. And we see coyotes. We see bears. We've seen fox. We've seen all kinds of things. We had one kitty one time that the neighbor's dog got a hold of. Neighbor's dog got a hold of one of our dogs one time. And we have, it's just what happens. Stuff happens. We had a cat named Geechee. Geechee spoke a different language. And we have a tribe of people in eastern North Carolina that speak Geechee. And so one night in the middle of the night, the cat was just talking up a storm and Robert said, "Geechee, hush." And that became his name. So Penrod was named after a character in a book by Booth Tarkington from the 1900s. And it was a kid named Penrod. And Penrod was a mess in a good way. He was a precocious, 10-year-old. And Robert loved the books as a child. And so he read them to me. There's Penrod and Sam. So we got the two cats. After Geechee had left us, we went without a cat for about 6 months, and Robert was miserable without a cat. I've never really been around cats until I married Robert. And so we've been 6 months without a cat, and we went to the Cat Man over in Silva. I don't even know if he's there anymore. But we had Penrod was a kitten like this big. And Penrod talked to Robert. But Samantha, her story was talking to me. And she hates me. But she's beginning to like me a little better. And Samantha's whole litter had been eaten by a hawk. And Samantha had survived because she got in under a porch. And she was the only one left in the litter. And she's always been a little scaredy cat. But I didn't help matters any by spraying her with water when she got on my kitchen counter, because I'd heard that was a good thing to do to keep her off your kitchen counter. Now, anytime I get ready to cook, I always wash the counters down first. But if Penrod has nope. Giving it to God. It is what it is. I'm going to give it to God. And I've searched with binoculars. Robert's walked around the property. We'll see. He's a big cat. He's a big cat. Big cat. Well, now I'm hearing from my sources that say Facebook has put a notification on groups that do gardening and preserving. This is so funny. As how did they put it? Gardening and preserving. Let me see. They're labeling people who garden and people who preserve their foods with drying and canning and making jellies and jams and stuff as extremists. I've been doing this my whole life. My grandmother did it. It's country. We're just Southern. We're country people. It's what we do. It's how we take care of our families. It's how we grow, as Marie says on Homestead Heart, it's how we grow our own groceries. She had a cute video today, so go to Homestead Heart and look at her little video today. She's trying a new water canner, which is a steam canner, and she put it together to use it, and she researched. She wants to be exactly what she wants to make sure everything's safe. And I had told her that I had used this canner for 40 years. In fact, I wore one out. But I have a backup in the basement. Got rid of my old one. So, putting in a garden, growing fruit trees, and that's one of the things about the people I follow on Facebook who are in Portugal. They have fruit trees everywhere. They have olive trees and fig trees, and even my little self-sufficient guy in Canada has put up a greenhouse this year and has a dwarf fig tree in the middle of his greenhouse. A dwarf fig tree. I love fig preserves. I have a cake I used to make with fig preserves. And making fig preserves, there's an art to it. It's just so much fun. But any jams and jellies can be turned into syrup and preserves and jams and jellies. And it would be nice to have a fig tree. But Robert's planted some nut trees down in our front field. We might not ever see them make nuts, but guess what? It's okay. Somebody will see them. They're going to grow. He planted some pecans and he's planted some walnuts, although I think he's beginning to regret the walnut thing, because walnut trees destroy the ground around it and won't let anything grow. So I don't know if he's going to cut down his walnut trees or not, but we've used walnuts for stain. One time I gave Robert for his birthday a kit for making a tower pistol, and we went and collected walnuts and turned them into stain for this project. And he had fun making these tower pistols. He has an ancestor that was murdered. Well, not really murdered. It was a duel. He was a congressman, and he was in a duel with a tower pistol. And you don't know if those things are going to shoot or not. So watching people who have all these fruit trees and apple trees and cherry trees, this couple I've been watching in Latvia, the Do and Be Farmily. It's a farm family. Farmily. They have storks. She posted a stork video today. I've had to look for uplifting things today. And they took videos. They have storks that nest in their chestnut tree. It's absolutely beautiful. And they had about a 30-minute video of the storks growing up. Little eggs and chicks and teaching them to fly, and the goose getting after them. They have chickens and goats, and they talk to the animals in these cute little baby voices, sheepies and pew-pews. I think the geese are named pew-pew. And this daddy goose raised the they got the little geese at a young age, and he raised them because he was lonesome. And now there's 3 geese, and they was chasing after the storks, and it was just fun. And I watched a man who had a late calf born this week. Usually they're born in June, and here it is, the 1st of September, almost, when this calf was born. He had to go out in the field and find this calf. And it just, the things you have to do for the critters. You got to feed them. I remember being a 5-year-old with my great-grandmother going and getting eggs. And she reached into the nest to get an egg, and she put nest eggs in her nest that were golf balls. And she would put these golf balls, and there was a snake, a big old snake in this nest. And my Uncle Billy took that snake out because he wanted his golf ball back. It was in the snake. And, I don't know about killing good snakes that keep rats and mice away. I don't like that. But I remember being chased by a big old rooster with spurs on it. Yeah, people are talking about their fig trees. Anyway, having fruit trees and taking your bounty. Like my neighbor brought me tomatoes the other day. They were absolutely wonderful. Tomatoes. And Justin made fresh salsa this week. He made fresh salsa and his neighbor brought him a 5-gallon bucket of tomatoes, and he made salsa. There's nothing better. Just nothing better, folks. So share your bounty. Put up what you need for a couple of years, because you don't know if the garden's going to make next year. The Homestead Hart family, their watermelons didn't do well. The squash bugs got into their watermelons and ruined their watermelons. And they had some problems in the greenhouse, and Mr. H's father died, and they had to go to New Orleans, and it was just horrible. And they got some late watermelons. They love watermelons. That's their favorite thing in the garden. So sharing your bounty with others. And yesterday I watched a 2-year-old one where the wild hogs came in on their little farm. And I've been chased by a wild hog, yeah. It's not fun to be chased by a wild hog with a fly rod in your hand, because those things are fast. And she started chasing these wild pigs off of her farm because she didn't want them to get into her garden after they had worked so hard on their garden. Yeah, somebody saying bamboo is invasive. I planted a little dwarf bamboo around my pond, and it's taken me forever to get rid of it. It's cute, but mm, mm, mm. Almond trees are great. I don't think we can grow almonds here. I think I'm in zone 6. But just start small. Start small. Go to the farmer's market, and apple butter is easy to make. Maybe get a food dehydrator and just dehydrate some extra tomatoes. Dehydrate peppers and just put them in one of those vacuum seal bags. Just start somewhere. Start doing something just to put a little back. If you have an abundance, put it back and save it for your family and share it with others. As somebody said today I was listening to, they try to put up as much as they can so they will have enough to share in the need when there's a need in the community. So I don't care if we are labeled extremist. I don't really have a garden, but I like to plant stuff. I love to plant stuff. I have, when people stole my calla lily at the office, I got one little half of a bulb and I put it in a pot and I blessed it and I asked God to bless it. And I got 2 leaves on that plant now. 2 leaves. Because of faith. And I have faith that Penrod's going to come home. And if he doesn't come home here, he's going to go over the Rainbow Bridge and we'll get another cat. I love our life. I love living on 10 acres, being the steward of our property. Robert's more the steward than I am, but he brings me stuff. So, folks, take care. Take care of what God gives you. Because if you don't, he won't send it anymore. Take care of it. Oh, I remember putting up pear preserves. We had a pear tree. The neighbors had a pear tree, and they always had a huge abundance. And I would get like 2 5-gallon buckets of pears. Oh, those were so good. And I love the pear syrup that I would make off of that. Oh, that was some good eating. I'm telling you, good eating. Pears. And I've canned pears. I've canned peaches. I've made apple butter. I've made apple sauce. I'm telling you. If you're not a good steward of what God sends you, he won't send it anymore. So be a good steward. Get your house in order so you can do some of these fun things and watch some of these preservation videos that people teach in the old ways of planting a garden and preserving their own food and making the jams and jellies and chow chow. And what's chow chow? It's ground up green tomatoes and peppers and onions, and it's like a relish. And it's really good on pinto beans. So everybody, keep praying for the Christians in Afghanistan. Pray for Christians everywhere that are being persecuted. In China, in Indonesia, pray, pray, pray. Pray. And now people, there's shortages of all kinds of things. People are having trouble getting cannon lids for their jars. Isn't that awful? Walmart even took out the whole area in Mrs. H's Walmart. It's all gone. No more jars or lids. You might have to go to something like an Ace Hardware store to get cans. But there's other ways to put things up. There is. My grandmother used to melt paraffin over the top of her jars, and she would take the lids off and reuse them. And she would have a community lid that she would put on the jar to put back in the refrigerator, but she would just pour melted paraffin over her jams and jellies. I don't know why they're doing it. I have no clue. No clue. People, I like to can stuff and I have a generator and a freezer. And our generator runs the freezer if the power's out. But what happens when we run out of propane? And we can't get any more of that. So make sure you have the tools you need to can. I've got a pressure canner. I've got a steam canner. I've got the Johnny Appleseed strainer with all the different screens to strain pumpkin. I love for Halloween to put a pumpkin out on the front porch. Somebody said today they are already decorating for fall. But I always hated to cut up a jack-o'-lantern, which I think is a little satanic, but I liked having a pumpkin, just a pumpkin, and maybe some corn stalks on my front porch. Well, guess what? I'd cook that pumpkin. And I'd put that pumpkin in the oven, cut it half in two, put it on a cookie sheet, and put it in the oven and get it soft. And then I'd run it through my Johnny Appleseed strainer and get all the stringies out of it. And I'd make pumpkin puree that I could use for cakes and pumpkin pie, which is my favorite. So being able to put things away and be good stewards of what God sends you, not waste. Granny always said, waste not, want not. And anytime you throw food into the garbage, you're throwing dollar bills down the drain. Don't do it. So take some time to get your kitchen clean so you don't mind getting in there and putting up some corn or putting up some squash. I put up enough squash to last us 2 years this year. I didn't can it. Pumpkin roll and pumpkin bread. My daughter-in-law makes the best chocolate pumpkin bread you have ever eaten. Well, y'all are sweethearts. I'm telling you, keep praying for the Christians in Afghanistan. And if you get a chance, say a little prayer for Penrod. I'm just hoping somebody thought he was a stray cat and took him in because he is so adorable. He thinks he's a dog. So be good, kind, and sweet. Be good to yourself. What is squash? It's a yellow vegetable. Oh, I have to tell you a squash story. When Justin was little, his grandfather had a dealership for tractors, and he would give Justin these tractors on his birthday and Christmas that had real plows and real disc, real combines. These toys would actually work. Really work. And so Justin would get out in the garden with his other granddaddy L.E., and they would farm. And we had a really big garden. We had probably 200 tomato plants and just tomatoes everywhere. But we had a row of squash, and we had a row of purple hull peas, and we had 2 rows of purple hull peas and 2 rows of green beans and squash and onions and radishes and mustard greens and just turnip greens. You name it, we grew it. Well, yellow squash, he had these rows, and Justin would get it. Justin and I talked about it today. He remembers doing it. And he was probably 3 or 4. And they would get the water hose out, and Justin would build levees with his tractors to irrigate the garden, because sometimes we would go weeks and weeks without rain. And Justin and Granddaddy would irrigate the garden. And he had this one squash plant that he was always tilling around. He would take the tractor and plow it, and he'd combine, and he'd do all this stuff. And you know, that plant was twice the size of any other squash plant in the garden because Justin loved that plant. Justin took care of that plant, and it produced more squash than any plant in the garden. And it was fun. I love summer squash. So I have I've frozen my squash, but I have cooked it down and then cooled it off quickly, put it in Ziploc bags so that I can make squash casserole. That's the only way Robert will eat squash. He barely eats vegetables, y'all. It's the only way he'll eat squash is in my squash casserole. And I just steam the squash and then cook down all the moisture and cool it off, put it in a bag. Sometimes I put onions with it. And then I had a can of cream of chicken soup and a tub of sour cream. Sometimes I put some carrots in it. Yum. Yeah, it's kind of like zucchini, but it's yellow. I love squash casserole. And sometimes people put cheese in it, but I don't put cheese in mine. But I put Pepperidge Farm stuffing mix. So it's kind of Italian-y. Well, I love you all. Check out Homestead Heart. They're little homesteaders down in Warner Robins, Georgia. And she is just, she's real. She's real people. Real people. And she had her grandchildren helping her. I don't believe she's old enough to have grandchildren, but she had her grandchildren helping her process their meat chickens the other day. And then she made chicken stock. There's nothing like beautiful chicken stock, I'm telling you. So as Marie would say, grow your own groceries. Let's be activists. Let's can those extra groceries. And if you don't have a garden, go to your farmer's market. We have a Western North Carolina farmer's market in Asheville, and all the producers from all around. Willow posted Homestead Heart. Yeah. They're sweethearts. They really are. And they work hard. And Mr. H was in a car wreck in the spring, and it's been really hard on him. I don't think he's able to work right now. He may have gone back to work, but he's helping. I love you all. Be good to yourself, kind to others, and let the sweetness from the Lord, the joy that's in your heart from being a child of God, show the world that Jesus Christ is your Savior. And pray for Christians all around the world. Pray, pray, pray. I love you all. And I will see you tomorrow. It's question and answer day. I should have mentioned that first. It's question and answer day tomorrow. Can you believe it? Y'all get in bed if you're on the other side of the world, in the UK, in Tasmania. Y'all are everywhere. I love you all. See you later. Thanks for cheering me up. Bye.